It's that time of the year again. The Game Maker Toolkit Game Jam, the recurring event for game developers, where every year I fight to keep the reputation of RPG Maker strong, or at least what's left of it. The theme of this year is loop. At first I wasn't really a fan of the theme, since to me it seemed like they were banking on the popular mechanic of time loops. But I was luckily proven wrong by many other talented developers who managed to make something unique out of this theme without using that trope. Day 1. This is the most important step of the game jam, brainstorming. As every year, I'm always ready to drop from the event if I don't find a good enough concept. Will I make it this year? Or I will stop even before starting? Well, yeah, I'm making this video, so I suppose I found it. Yay! The first two concepts were small ideas I'd had some time ago. First, a bus game where you merge buses to unlock new bus loops. Okay, listen, you don't always get all the good ideas on the first try. And second, a spin-off of Artisio, where a character loops around a cube to change her orientation and point her sword at different targets. I considered the second one, but it wasn't worth the trouble to relearn again 3JS in just 4 days. And then, while reading the Wikipedia definition of loop, I found it. Corner opening, a loophole. A loophole! Wait! A loophole! Huh. And in chat Zoro gave a great idea for a game. Finding loopholes in contracts. The first idea was to just have text, not even a map, and let the player choose the right sentence and select the loophole that exploited the contract. But I wanted the game to avoid being beatable by mistake or trial and error. I wanted the player to actively try to find the answer. At first I thought about letting the player move on a map, but that would have limited the few ideas I had for the puzzles. That's why I opted for a special system for my game, the word selector. What is the word selector? It shows 3 columns: the action, the adjective and the target. And after you select one from each, you can execute the action. Well, for now nothing happens. The idea works, but requires a lot of programming. I realized I need a 4th column that only appears if you choose a transitive verb. Sounds hard enough, but luckily my code was expandable, so I didn't have that much trouble implementing it. Surprisingly. Okay, maybe just a little. Also, I managed to find a good asset for the game. At a very low resolution, it kinda recalls old games that used words to control the character. It's also very complete and requires low maintenance. Day 3. Okay, making a sentence is cool, but as they say, words mean nothing without actions. Programming every possible combination would be virtually impossible, so instead I worked on each column type individually. For the adjectives, I had a table that checks if they are compatible with the selected verb. For the target, I made another table with the ID of each target, so the game knows where to redirect each action. Now that it checks for the right adjective and uses the correct target, I need to program each action. Luckily, all actions can be broken down into shared segments: take, drop and move, with a reaction at the end, if present. For example, talk is move, then it triggers the reaction at the end, in this case, the dialogue. And bring is move, take, switches the action to the other object, move, drop, and then the reaction, in that order. Day 4. I spent most of the time programming, but I didn't really touch the game storyline. At the start I was thinking about making a scenario-based game, with each level referencing one of my other games. The idea was mostly an excuse to recycle resources I already had, but it would have required a lot of extra writing to explain the context of each individual one. That's why at the end I went for a single story of a warrior named Dalion. The entire plot was built around 2 puzzles. the princess puzzle and the kitchen puzzle. Everything else was made to fit around those. I still had all the dialogues to write and the puzzles to implement, but with the programming part finally out of the way, I felt confident I could pull it off. And in the end, I did it. I just had to scrap a bunch of extra puzzles, including the boss fight against the evil mage, who now just randomly dies off screen. I had Michael test the game, which made me realize I made a lot of wrong assumptions about how players would approach it. I quickly published a first version of the game just to meet the deadline, and then worked on a lot of bug fixes, since there were still a lot of problems left. I uploaded the final bug fix 2 minutes before the deadline and... yeah, the new version has a game-breaking bug. Great. Okay, if I see it with a smiley face, maybe I don't give the right reaction, so let me try again. Just great. I'm ironic and angry. Ah. At least I could roll back to the previous version, no problem, or I would have been very much screwed. So, there is the game. Ambiguous Swording. The reception for the entry was pretty good. People really liked the word selection or even just the art style. After the voting period ended, my game placed 23rd in the creativity category out of over 9,000 entries. Under 50 even this time. That's a streak I'm very proud of. In the end, it's another game I never expected to make. But, as with every new game jam, it taught me something new. This time, to organize the game elements well and to never forget that players will always have different approaches to puzzles.